The compound sat on the edge of the city like a fortress of glass and steel, its mirrored surfaces reflecting a skyline that never slept. Within its walls, every corridor was lined with subtle surveillance, and every room was a controlled environment. Temperature, lighting, even sound meticulously regulated. Elior moved through it all with quiet precision, his fingers brushing over the smooth surfaces of the consoles he maintained. To any outsider, he might have appeared a recluse, a man who had abandoned the world for solitude. Yet beneath the calm exterior, his mind raced with ideas too brilliant and too dangerous to ever be shared. Marcus Vale, his husband and warden, was the only other presence Elior ever truly acknowledged. Marcus had built this life, this gilded cage, not out of malice, but out of an obsession to protect the genius he possessed. "You don't understand," Marcus said more times than Elior could count, voice a low growl as he checked the data streams flowing from Elior's work. "The world isn't ready for you. They'll take what you've built and ruin it. I won't allow it." But the sincerity of Marcus' concern was inseparable from a possessiveness that pressed down on Elior like a weight, constant and suffocating. Every day was a careful choreography. Elior woke before the city did, the sun not yet piercing the thick clouds that hung over the horizon. He would begin his work before breakfast, calibrating experimental devices that hummed with latent energy, computing algorithms that even the most advanced AI struggled to emulate. Marcus would hover nearby, occasionally entering the room under the guise of assistance, checking codes, adjusting parameters, but never allowing Elior to contact the outside world. Elior's brilliance, once a beacon for progress, had become a secret treasure buried deep within walls designed to keep him contained. Despite the constraints, Elior's mind could not be caged. He observed patterns, calculated probabilities, and ran simulations that reached far beyond the compound's perimeter. Sometimes he would pause, staring out through the reinforced glass at the sprawling city, and imagine the world outside, chaotic, unpredictable, alive with possibilities. His isolation sharpened his intellect, but it also amplified the longing for freedom, the silent desire to test his creations in an environment that was not controlled, monitored, and policed by a single man. The tension between husband and genius was subtle but omnipresent. Marcus' love was a double-edged sword. His constant oversight felt like protection, yet it was also a silent accusation that Elior could not be trusted. "You must promise me," Marcus said one evening, voice tight with both fear and authority, "that nothing leaves this compound. Not a single line of code, not a fragment of your research. The world cannot have it." Elior nodded, not because he agreed, but because resistance was futile. Every rebellion, every attempt to reach beyond the walls, had been anticipated and neutralized. Marcus' control was absolute, or so it seemed. Yet, cracks were forming, subtle and unnoticeable to anyone but Elior. A signal, faint and irregular, appeared on his personal terminal one night, a pattern in the data streams he had not encoded, a sequence that did not originate from the compound systems. Elior's pulse quickened as he analyzed it. Whoever or whatever was reaching out knew exactly how to remain undetected. He allowed himself a single, cautious thought. Someone might be searching for him. It was both exhilarating and terrifying, this whisper of connection to a world he had been cut off from. Still, daily life pressed on. Meals were served at precise intervals, security drones glided silently along corridors, and Marcus continued to assert his authority with a measured intensity. Yet Elior could feel the tension inside him growing, a coiled energy ready to burst. The anomaly in the data streams became an obsession. He could not ignore it. Every calculation, every simulation, seemed to circle back to one question: who was reaching for him, and why? It was during one of these long nights, bathed in the soft glow of holographic displays, that Elior made the discovery. The anomaly was not random, it was deliberate, a breadcrumb trail left by someone outside the walls, someone who understood his work, perhaps even anticipated his genius. His heart raced as he traced the signal, following it through layers of encryption that Marcus would never have predicted. For the first time in years, a sense of hope stirred within him. fragile but undeniable. Marcus entered the lab then, his presence a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "You've been at this for hours," he said, voice calm but edged with an unspoken warning. "Take a break. You'll burn yourself out." Elior looked up, measuring his words carefully. "I think there's someone trying to contact me," he said, watching Marcus' reaction. The older man's eyes narrowed, and a shadow of fear crossed his face. He stepped closer, placing a hand on the console, almost like a barrier. "No one can know about this. Promise me, Elior. Promise me you won't follow it." Elior's gaze lingered on the distant city lights through the reinforced glass. He wanted to believe Marcus, to obey the rules that had kept him safe all these years. But the signal pulsed insistently on the screen, a heartbeat that matched his own. "I can't ignore it," he whispered, more to himself than to Marcus. The compound, with all its perfection and security, suddenly felt smaller than ever, a cage that had outlived its purpose. Somewhere beyond these walls, a world waited, and perhaps someone waited with it. As Marcus turned away, muttering reassurances to himself, Elior allowed himself a brief moment of daring. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, poised to trace the anomaly further, to follow the signal wherever it led. The hum of the machines, the cool sterile air, the ever-watchful eyes of his husband, all of it faded into the background. For the first time in years, Elior felt the exhilarating stirrings of possibility, the first spark of a journey that could not be contained, the opening of a path that might finally lead him beyond the walls of his gilded cage. Aiden Kreel sat in the command center of his high-rise office, the city sprawling beneath him like a living circuit board. Holographic displays hovered in midair, streams of data dancing in complex patterns, yet none of it captivated him as much as the single file at the center of his attention. Elior Vale. For years, Aiden had tracked the hidden genius, following breadcrumbs through encrypted networks, corporate black ops reports, and whispers of revolutionary AI breakthroughs that had never surfaced publicly. His determination was singular: find Elior and bring him into the open, where his talents could shape the future rather than languish in isolation. The office was silent except for the hum of processors and the occasional tap of Aiden's fingers on the interface. His eyes, sharp and calculating, traced Elior's known patterns, habits, preferred coding languages, even the cadence of his routines. "Humans like him," Aiden murmured to himself, "they think they can be contained. Yet ingenuity cannot be locked away." There was a reverence in his voice, the acknowledgement of brilliance that no security system or physical barrier could suppress. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a kinship with Elior, a recognition that he too had once been constrained by circumstance, only to rise through intellect and tenacity. Aiden's team of specialists, engineers, field operatives, and data analysts worked tirelessly around him. Each had been handpicked for their ability to think like Elior, to anticipate his moves, to respect the human element that machines could never replicate. "We've detected a fluctuation in the Vale compound's energy matrix," said one of his lieutenants, pointing at a holographic map. "It's minor, almost insignificant, but it could be a vulnerability." Aiden's lips curved into a slight smile. He knew Marcus Vale would be careful, but no control was absolute. Humans, after all, always left traces, patterns, moments of imperfection. Meanwhile, within the compound, Elior noticed the anomaly growing stronger, an almost imperceptible pulse that reached through encrypted layers of his own devices. Each signal was deliberate, methodical, a sign that someone out there not only knew of his existence but understood him in a way Marcus never could. That night, he stayed longer in the lab than usual, tracing the signal, following its logic, feeling the thrill of connection to an unseen ally. Marcus, sensing a shift in the room's energy, appeared silently behind him. "You shouldn't be doing this," he said, voice low but taut with authority. "The world is not ready for you. And whoever is reaching out, they will only take what you have and corrupt it." Elior didn't respond, only allowed his eyes to linger on the displays, noting patterns Marcus could not predict, possibilities he could not imagine. Outside, Aiden orchestrated the first probe into the compound's defenses. It was subtle, almost invisible, a nanobot swarm designed to map the perimeter's electronic and physical systems without triggering alarms. Aiden watched the data feed, his pulse steady. "We are not here to steal him," he reminded his team, though the words were as much for himself as for them. "We are here to offer him choice. Freedom. Collaboration. Let the rest of the galaxy deal with Marcus Vale." The irony was not lost on him. Humanity's potential often lay dormant until someone, sometimes against the odds, dared to unlock it. Marcus, ever vigilant, sensed the intrusion almost immediately. He moved through the compound with practiced precision, intercepting the nanobots before they could relay too much information. Yet even his mastery of surveillance could not mask every trace, and Aiden knew that. Patterns of detection, unusual power fluctuations, tiny gaps in encrypted firewalls, all signs of human fallibility, all proof that Elior could be reached if only the right combination of skill and patience was applied. "He's close," Aiden murmured, leaning forward. "Close enough to hear the call. Now we wait." Inside the compound, Elior's mind raced. Each new signal, each anomaly, felt like a message written directly for him, a reminder that he was not forgotten. And for the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine a life beyond Marcus' walls. A life where his work could influence the world, where his talents were acknowledged rather than hidden. The thrill of possibility stirred something dangerous within him. Hope. Hope that Marcus' control was not permanent, that isolation was not the only reality. The tension between husband and genius escalated subtly, yet unmistakably. Marcus patrolled the lab, observing Elior's every movement, noting the flickers of excitement that betrayed curiosity he could not suppress. "Stop," Marcus commanded once more, frustration threading his tone. "Whatever is out there, it's not for you. It's not safe." Elior's fingers hovered over the keyboard, paused between adherence and defiance. He knew the risk, understood the consequences, yet something in the signal called to him in a way Marcus never could. And for the first time, he realized that the world beyond these walls was not just a threat, it was a possibility. Aiden, in the city miles away, watched the pattern shift, noting the compound's heightened alert. His eyes narrowed with satisfaction. "He's noticing us," he said softly. "He's thinking for himself. That's the first step." The city hummed below, unaware that within its bounds, two men, one isolated, one searching, were on a collision course, their fates intertwined by intellect, ambition, and the uncontainable nature of human potential. By the end of the night, Elior had traced the signal further than ever, uncovering layers of information Marcus could not anticipate. Every discovery brought exhilaration, but also danger. The risk of exposure, the potential for conflict, loomed ever larger. Yet Elior felt alive in a way he hadn't in years, each pulse of data a heartbeat of freedom calling him forward. Outside the compound, Aiden leaned back in his chair, watching the horizon glow with artificial light. He knew the next move would be critical. One wrong step could end the pursuit, yet hesitation was not an option. Human ingenuity, he thought, was never static. It always sought growth, discovery, freedom. And Elior Vale, hidden and brilliant, was the embodiment of that truth. The stage was set, the players positioned, and the first move in a silent, invisible game had already begun. The night ended in a tense quiet, but neither man truly rested. Somewhere in the compound, Elior's thoughts lingered on the unknown presence reaching out, while miles away, Aiden prepared for the delicate maneuver that might finally bridge the chasm between isolation and discovery. The collision of control and freedom, of secrecy and pursuit, was imminent. And when it came, it would change everything. The night air around the compound was heavy with anticipation, an almost tangible tension that mirrored Elior's own restlessness. Somewhere beyond the walls, systems hummed and shifted, unseen yet deliberate, as if the city itself held its breath. Elior sat at his terminal, eyes fixed on the streams of data cascading across the display. The anomaly had evolved, no longer subtle, no longer merely a whisper in the code. Someone was probing deeper, testing the defenses, learning the rhythm of the compound. His pulse quickened as he realized the truth. They were coming for him. Marcus appeared from the shadows of the lab, silent as ever, though the flicker of a security alert on his screen betrayed the tension he kept hidden. "Something's out there," he said, voice low, almost a growl. "I've blocked most of it, but it's persistent. Whoever is trying, they know what they're doing." Elior didn't look up. He had already traced the intrusions further than Marcus had anticipated, his mind mapping patterns and possibilities with a precision born of years of isolation. "They want me," he whispered, the words half hope, half fear. Marcus' hand tightened on the console edge, a gesture of both authority and anxiety. "No one takes what belongs to us," he said. "Not tonight. Not ever." Miles away, in the neon-lit heart of the city, Aiden Kreel observed the compound through his array of holographic feeds. He watched Marcus' movements, noting the subtle tension, the human imperfections in the way he monitored Elior. "It's time," Aiden said, voice firm, though his eyes held the weight of respect. "We move carefully. We reach him without breaking him first." His team readied the infiltration, nanobot swarms to bypass electronic defenses, cloaked drones to monitor patrols, and a single operative trained in the subtleties of human behavior, capable of leaving no trace while guiding Elior toward the opportunity he had been denied for years. Inside the compound, Elior followed the latest anomaly, his fingers dancing over the keyboard, his thoughts leaping across encryption layers as if the walls themselves were porous. Each pulse of data was a heartbeat of possibility, and he felt the thrill of anticipation surge through him. Marcus leaned over his shoulder, eyes narrowed. "I told you to stop," he said, frustration laced with fear. "Do you understand what this could mean?" Elior met his gaze, the tension between them a tight wire. "I understand perfectly," he said. "I also understand what freedom feels like." The infiltration was precise, almost imperceptible. Aiden's drones hovered silently in the compound's ventilation shafts, nanobots crawling along the infrastructure, mapping power flows and communication lines without triggering alarms. Every move was calculated, designed to avoid confrontation, yet prepared for it if necessary. The complexity of Marcus' security measures impressed Aiden, but it did not deter him. Humans were predictable in their vigilance, and even the most careful systems carried the fingerprint of their creators. That fingerprint was all Aiden needed. Elior noticed subtle changes almost immediately. Minute shifts in the ambient energy, tiny variances in system responses, a pattern that suggested not only intrusion but understanding. His curiosity overrode caution. "They're here," he murmured, almost to himself, tracing the signal to its source. Marcus turned sharply, eyes flashing with a mixture of fear and anger. "No," he said, voice tight.
"Not now.
Not like this." But Elior was already moving, following the invisible trail with a focus that made Marcus hesitate, if only for a heartbeat. The moment of contact came suddenly. In the central lab, a flicker in the holographic display coalesced into a figure, human, confident, moving with purpose, yet careful not to alarm. Elior froze, disbelief and relief warring within him. "I've been searching for you," the man said, voice steady and commanding. Elior recognized immediately that this was no ordinary pursuer. There was an intelligence, a resonance, a respect that Marcus had never offered. The words hung in the air, heavy with promise. Marcus reacted instinctively, stepping between them, hands raised as if to shield what he had claimed as his own. "Who are you?" he demanded, voice firm but wavering with uncertainty. Aiden's gaze met his, unwavering, unflinching. "Someone who understands his value," Aiden said. "Someone who knows that genius should not be imprisoned." The tension in the room was palpable, the walls themselves seeming to constrict around them. Marcus' control, once absolute, felt fragile, vulnerable. Elior took a careful step forward, eyes never leaving Aiden's. You've been searching for me?" he asked, disbelief softening into hope. Aiden nodded.
"For years," he said.
"We've watched, waited, prepared. I could not interfere until the moment was right. But now it is. The hum of the machines around them seemed to echo the significance of the moment, the quiet acknowledgement that a decision had arrived that would reshape the boundaries of control, freedom, and trust. Marcus' expression hardened. "He belongs here," he said, voice resolute yet betraying fear. "Everything he has done, everything he is, it is mine to protect." Aiden stepped closer, voice calm but unyielding. "Protection is not ownership. You cannot cage what the world needs." The words struck a chord, not only within Marcus, but within Elior, who had long felt the suffocating weight of authority masked as love. For a moment, silence filled the room, broken only by the soft whir of holographic projectors. Elior's mind raced through the choices before him, weighing loyalty against freedom, safety against possibility. The signal, the intrusion, the man before him. All signs that a world existed beyond Marcus' walls, a world that was waiting, alive with potential. Marcus' gaze pleaded, demanded, yet Elior realized that his life, his work, and his very purpose could no longer be contained. Finally, with a measured breath, Elior stepped aside. I have to go," he said, voice steady though trembling with exhilaration. Marcus' eyes flickered with shock and desperation. "No," he said, reaching out, but Aiden moved swiftly, a calming presence between husband and genius. "It's his choice," Aiden said, gently yet firmly. "You cannot claim what is not yours to control." The first step toward freedom was taken. Elior followed the signal, guided by Aiden's steady hand, leaving behind the confines of the compound, the walls of surveillance, and the possessiveness that had defined his life. Marcus stood alone, a figure of lost control, as the door sealed silently behind them. Outside, the city lights glimmered like constellations, hinting at vast possibilities and challenges yet to come. Elior allowed himself a single glance back, not in regret, but in acknowledgement of the life he was leaving and the one he was stepping into. Aiden's presence was both reassurance and promise, the embodiment of the freedom and collaboration he had longed for. As they disappeared into the shadows, the world outside awaited, vast and uncontainable, ready for the brilliance that had been hidden for far too long. The city hummed beneath them as Elior stepped into Aiden Kreel's headquarters, a space that felt both familiar and alien after years of isolation. Sleek surfaces reflected the soft glow of hollow screens, corridors curved in angles impossible in ordinary architecture, and the quiet efficiency of human design enveloped him. For the first time, he felt the absence of surveillance and the presence of choice. Marcus' shadow no longer loomed. His life belonged to himself. And yet, the weight of responsibility settled heavily on his shoulders. Freedom was exhilarating, but it demanded more than courage. Aiden guided him through the facility, explaining ongoing projects, scientific frontiers that spanned planetary systems, and initiatives that relied not on raw power, but on intellect and innovation. "This," Aiden said, gesturing to a complex array of AI cores humming in synchronized pulses, "is the edge of what humans can achieve. But talent like yours, it multiplies everything." Elior's eyes widened as he realized the scope. Here, his work would not be hidden, not used for control, but shared, applied, and expanded. The thrill of possibility returned, sharper and brighter than ever. They entered a lab buzzing with activity. Human engineers and scientists, all men, moved with precise purpose, exchanging data, fine-tuning devices, and debating algorithms. Elior was immediately struck by the collaborative energy, the interplay of intellect and ambition. Aiden's voice cut through the hum. "You will contribute, guide, and challenge us. But you are free to choose the direction, the scope, the risks." Elior nodded, absorbing the gravity of the opportunity. The contrast with his life under Marcus was stark. Here, his genius was valued as a tool for advancement, not as a jewel to be hoarded. Elior began his first project under Aiden's guidance, refining a quantum AI system capable of predictive modeling for interstellar navigation. His mind, long confined to routines and isolation, surged with ideas that integrated with the work of others, sparking innovations that had previously been unimagined. He found himself debating with colleagues, testing hypotheses, and building simulations that challenged even Aiden's expectations. The human ingenuity that had always defined him now had a stage broad enough to encompass planets, perhaps entire star systems. Despite the exhilaration, Elior remained aware of Marcus' lingering influence. His former husband had protected him in his own way, though possessively, and the memory of those years underscored the value of freedom. Elior understood now that control, no matter how well-intentioned, could never substitute for choice. And yet, the contrast illuminated something vital. Humans thrived when trusted, challenged, and allowed to collaborate. Aiden had not merely rescued him, he had created the conditions for Elior to excel beyond what even he had imagined. As the days passed, Elior became central to Aiden's vision. His projects accelerated breakthroughs in AI optimization, planetary resource management, and interstellar logistics. Reports came in from allied corporations, noting that the combination of Elior's unique perspective and Aiden's leadership produced results that surpassed expectations. The duo's synergy was more than human brilliance. It was a testament to what humanity could achieve when intellect, trust, and freedom intersected. Each success reinforced the HFY principle. Humans, unrestrained and united, were capable of extraordinary innovation. Yet, even amidst triumph, shadows lingered on the horizon. Intelligence reports hinted at rival factions, competitors who had long sought Elior's genius for their own purposes, and entities unprepared to accept humans achieving unprecedented technological mastery. Aiden's expression darkened as he briefed Elior. "Our work will not go unnoticed," he said, eyes sharp. "There are those who will try to claim what we build, to control, to dominate. But we will not falter. Not now, not ever." Elior's gaze hardened, understanding that freedom came with responsibility and vigilance. The world outside, vast and unpredictable, was no longer a distant threat. It was a challenge to be met with ingenuity, courage, and collaboration. Elior reflected on the journey that had brought him here, the gilded cage of Marcus' compound, the whispers of signals in the night, the meticulous strategy of Aiden Kreel. Every step, every risk, had forged him into a man capable of rising to this moment. His brilliance, once hidden and stifled, now resonated across human networks, a spark lighting broader possibilities. And yet, he knew that the path ahead would demand more. Careful choices, ethical deliberations, and the constant application of intellect in a world that could reward or destroy in equal measure. That evening, Elior stood before a large viewport, looking out at the city's endless lights that mirrored distant stars. Aiden joined him, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. Mentor and protege, collaborator and equal, bound by purpose rather than ownership. "It's just the beginning," Aiden said, voice low, carrying both caution and hope. Elior nodded, feeling the magnitude of what lay ahead, the enormity of the potential human achievement waiting to unfold. He understood now that freedom was more than movement, it was creation, challenge, and courage in equal measure. In that quiet moment, Elior allowed himself to imagine the future, new worlds mapped, problems solved, challenges met by human intellect, persistence, and collaboration. The past, with all its confinement, had led him here, the present, with its freedom, demanded he rise. And the horizon, infinite and bright, promised possibilities that no cage, no possessive control, could ever contain. With one final glance at the stars, Elior turned back toward the lab, toward the waiting projects, toward the human ingenuity that had brought him here and would carry him forward. Freedom was no longer a dream. It was a responsibility, a calling, and a promise. And he would meet it with all the brilliance, courage, and determination that had long been hidden behind walls.